Welcome to the In the Tank podcast. Get ready for an hour of hot 40K goodness coming in your ears. You're in the tank now, baby.
We're live.
We are indeed live. Welcome, everybody, to In the Tank, episode 16. How are you doing, my glorious co-host, Ed?
I am fantastic. How are you? My bro from another hoe.
From another hoe. Yeah, no, I'm doing good. I'm doing good, mate. I'm doing good. Apart from the fact that I have now had to clear my painting desk and attack a completely different unit now, but we'll talk about that later.
Have you not got them painted? You've had a nightmare painted for this bloody event, and I haven't even got started yet. So, oh Lord.
Oh
right.
well, we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
Yeah. So what have you been working on?
Yeah, what have you been working on? So you need to do like the lean. On? So what have you been working on?
What are you working on, Russ?
So yes, well, I was getting through my old Deathwing Nightos, and I was quite happy about that because they're quite a strong unit in the old Dark Angels decks and stuff. And then something happened the last few days that I was maybe going, oh shit, no, can't do that anymore. So, or they're not biggest priority for me anymore. So, I've literally cleaned my paint desk. However, I have been tempted by the dark powers to be slightly distracted.
Yes, I know.
And I'm building legionaries. I'm building my dark legionaries in the background of this heresy.
He keeps sending me like little video clips of them, and he's like, so look at this one. It's got a head like Lorgar, and you've got like a little flaming hand and a flaming sword. And I'm like, yeah, good work. And I've replaced all the backpacks with like marks.
So the concept of my army is like they're called the Ascended Sons.
Yeah,
and essentially the concept is that they're like a sort of war band that are from the word bearers that have like been lost in the warp, and they're really into the concept of like combining their souls with demons and stuff, and they're just like a ragaband group of like infantry that are like on a desolate world, like similar to Colchis or whatever, where the word bearers originally came from, and yeah, they're just on this pilgrimage to basically be hoes for chaos, essentially. And as a result, all of their armor is like a bit mismatched, where it's like different stuff from different marks, and like their backpacks are like heresy era stuff, so their power armor is like heresy era and stuff. And I want to get their heads to look as much like word bearers' heads as possible. So one does it like Lorgar with all the tattoos and stuff. And honestly, it's this sounds so bad. It's the most fun I've had in the hobby for years. Like I like this
I can
so
tell.
Like
the worst thing is you've never been this enthused about an army since I've known you, and you play Dark Angels. And I'm like, all I've heard you be is like, oh, I fucking love Dark Angels. And now, like the last couple of weeks, you've just been like, I can't. I'm turning to the darkness.
Oh, it's so much fun.
I feel the warp overtaking me.
Because I also went to Farringdon Games Club at the weekend on Sunday to play a game with some people there. Shout out to Farringdon Games Club. And it's quite a sort of like newish sort of games club. And a lot of the 40k players that are there are quite young and quite inexperienced. And of course, everybody rocks up with their Space Marines and whatever, or Imperial factions, because it's the goodies and stuff. And my wife plays Harlequins, and she won a game that we had, a big multiplayer game that we were playing.
Yeah, I saw that.
But a part of me is like, I would love to be the villain and play word bearers in a very small skirmishy setting. So a part of me is like, I want to get my stuff painted for the tournaments that I'm playing like over the next like few weeks and months. But the other part of me is I want to get like 750 to 1,000 points of my word bearers painted and made so that I can be the villain on the table of my local beer hammer kind of events.
Yeah.
And you're
such an enabler. You're just enabling yourself. You're like, I just want to start with a little box, and now I just want to do skirmish games. But to enjoy it on a really like base level and just be the bastard that everyone hates at the table, or to be the villain for the young players that come in. I mean, you play Dark Angels, so you're the bastard at every table anyway.
Shut up. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's easier for a young person to project and be like, oh, they're demons and stuff on the other side, right? And like, and a part of me is loving this like endarkenment in my life, where I'm like, oh, this is tasting good. Like the Chaos Kool-Aid is is nice. Like, I've never been a Xenos guy apart from Tau, really, and even then, I'm not like crazy live on the hill of Xenos.
Yeah.
But Chaos, I could be tempted. I could be tempted by the dark powers, and I'm like. But there we go. So that's me. So that's me trying to get my Dark Angels painted. Being a bit tempted when I'm in a low energy mood to build some Legionnaires. I've almost got them all built.
Yeah.
And then when I'm not doing that, I'm playing in the games club and having fun with that. What are you doing, Ed? You've had your dad again, aren't you? Not really, but
yes,
you are kind of.
I am a dog dad at this point, and that doesn't mean what you think it means. That sounds awful. They're not little hybrids. I know I'm a Gene Stealer Colts player, but I wouldn't take it that far. But yeah, so my dog has had puppies, and we've just had the most mental sort of last week, basically, with puppies being born left and right and looking after those. So it's been a little bit hectic at home. I haven't had as much gaming or hobbying time as I would like, but we're getting there. And also, we're about to move on to a subject which kind of relates to both of what we've been talking about in these hobby little wrap-ups, because there's been a big points update. The Munitorum Field Manual has just dropped, and that has shaken up not only your Dark Angels list by absolutely nerfing your Terminators into the ground, at least for a 750 points game, because we're doing a 1500 points double. So you can't get much if they're 250 points a unit. You can't get much in a list with those. So you've been hit with the nerf bat, and my Gene Stealer Colts have been hit with the buff bat, and now I've got a whole extra bloody unit to paint, which is making it even trickier for me. So yeah.
So very quickly. Number one, you're the best dog dad ever, and you're doing great, Ed. I'm just going to pat you on the back. You're doing wonderful. Well done. You're such a sweetheart, and you're doing great. You're sending me photos, so well done.
We'll get there.
Secondly, fuck you, G-Dubs. No. So
I think it was
that came out of nowhere. We had warning that it was updating. That was an update was coming, right? And like. It was fascinating because I had a feeling that it was going to happen, because the Dark Angels have been doing great. They've been like topping events, or at least winning events, or top 8 in events for all recent history, like the last 3 or 4 months. What's gutting is that it's happened before I've had chance to actually actually do that, right? And it's just like, god damn. But the Dark Angels got. Literally, the entire list that I was going to play the doubles for you got nerfed. So every part of it, almost, apart from the character, because the jump pack intercessors also got nerfed. Eradicators got nerfed.
Yes.
Yeah, some crazy stuff. Also, there's some weird buffs for Dark Angels as well, where like the Lion came down in points, added a lot of the Primarchs, right?
Gilliman did, didn't he, as well?
Lion's now, the Lion's 285 points now. What the fuck? That's so cheap for what he is. Like, oh my word.
Is he going to be creeping back into your lists again?
No, he's going to be in all of my lists, because like I played him when he was at 350. I was playing him. So 275 jokes, mate.
285, yeah. Fucking good, mate.
Oh, was it 285? Sorry.
I don't know. You said 285, then you said 275. I'm just going with the former.
No, just going mad.
That is good for him. I think he's a good beat stick for that. You know, he does what he does. He does it well.
I've also heard that there's going to be some updated rules. He does. There's going to be some updated rules for Space Marines, just generic Space Marines, to help them against their sort of more common brethren chapters as well. There's going to be a buff for them in the future.
They're doing some what else got stuff for the old Xenos hunting Space Marines, aren't they?
The old Death Watch, isn't they?
Yeah, be good.
Good.
I've got a few Death Watch kicking about. That'd be interesting to see what they do. But yeah. MFM.
What else got hit, Ed? What else?
I mean, so we've got some big changes over the board. Nothing like massive. I think the two hardest hit were Adeptus Sororitas, which is obviously Sisters of Battle, and also Thousand Sons. And I think that they were deservedly hit. I think it's especially the Bringers of Flame detachment that got walloped.
It is,
for the Sisters, because I played against that LGT, and it was a hard fight, that was. It's rough, and I think it was probably deserved a little bit of a tweaking. And T-Suns have been so strong for ages, so again, it's probably right that they come down a little bit in power. They're not losing a huge amount. I think they'll use a few points across the list. This might maybe a squad or something. But those are the two biggest hit armies. Necrons also got a little bit of a hit with their Hypercrypt stuff, which again is probably deserved, like a few points heights here and there. just because they were like blowing everyone out of the water with that build. Really cheap stuff, like Monolith at 375 was quite good, but it's like 400 now. So those are the ones that have been hit. But the other one that I wanted to mention is a change to the missions, the secret missions in particular. You can no longer score primary on round 5 if you take a secret mission. And that is quite a big change. I don't know if you read that one or not, but
no, I didn't.
The reason that's really good is because what you'd find is like armies like Grey Knights, Hypocrites, anyone who could pick up loads of their army and put them down again, they would basically just avoid you for the first 4 turns of the game. And then in turn 5, they would come and sit on all the fucking points, do their secret mission and score like 35 primary in one go and win the game. And that was a little bit shit. I think... anything that's pushing towards interactivity in a game, that's the whole fucking point of a game. It's meant to be interactive, is like the best thing you can do. So that's a good change. What other sort of stuff have you seen change-wise?
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Like, you can't reward like that lack of interactivity with your opponent, right? And I can imagine a sneaky Grey Knights player just being like, right? And,
dancing around you
for
4 turns.
Yeah, it's not fun. That's not fun.
No.
Especially for someone like me who I'm always been about the primaries, like always. I'm just like, fuck you, like my objectives.
It's better for the slow armies that want to just like grind you down, like Death Guard and all that sort of stuff. They can actually just get into the middle and do that now. So that's good.
Yeah, I'm quite. Despite the fact that my exact build for lists that was weirdly trendsetting because I was doing them anyway. Being nerfed, I'm actually kind of glad because again, what happens in this case is you get this like burst of creativity again, where like obviously I research a lot of lists in real time, like being quite into the competitive side of gaming, right, of this hobby. And I researched lists for my favourite factions, aka, ironically, Sisters and Dark Angels, and to some degree CSM now, which is quite hilarious. And yeah, it was all the top lists were all almost identical, all very close to each other, right? And like, and that's not fun. That's not really fun. You do want a little bit of diversity and creativity, and like I imagine that's going to be the same in at the end of the next 3-month period or whatever the next quart period. But you'll find what I love is now where you get all this like burst of creativity and diversity, right? Where you don't feel like, oh, I'm playing Sisters, I have to run Bringers of Flame now. Now all of a sudden Penitent kind of looks quite fun, or like. Lots of other builds look quite optimal. Do you know what I mean? Or like you don't have to run this unit all of a sudden on every game that you play. Poor Drakari though, they got fucked pretty bad as well.
They just got binned off. I know that the thing is, like, I think some of their builds are doing quite well around the world in events, so I kind of get it. But also, some of them aren't so great, so it's a little bit mixed bag on that one. I think they'll be better off when they get their codex, to be honest with you.
I do too. I think, to be honest, a faction like Drakari has like a really high skill curve, and the people that can make the most out of them are fucking demons at that game.
It's really hard to just push a fucking raider forward and go, I'm going to get out the raider and I'm going to charge you. It's a fucking hard faction to play that.
Shut up, GSC. You're just such a GC occultist. It's like, well, my army doesn't exist on the board yet. Yeah, I could be in everywhere once.
You just see me like coming out of a drain in the floor,
out.
Like, got my little hand flamer, baby.
They float down here. Look, man, look. You should be pro Drakari.
I am pro
Drakari. You should be playing Drakari by all intents and purposes.
I should,
because you are part Drakari. Well, we'll see. But like, yeah, dude. For me, who is like, I'm going to sit here and let you come to me faction. Drakari are not my friend. Like, I don't like playing against Drakari very much. Like, and I've spoken about this on pod before. You're
telling me you don't like being needled all over the place in your weak points?
No, I don't. I don't. Dark Lance, Dark Lance, Dark Lance, Dark Lance. It's like Dark Lance, reroll Dark Lance. It's like like go away. I know they're like laser cannons, but fuck off. Like
it's actually their anti-vehicle weapons that are the worst at the minute. If you got those what are they called? I can never remember what they're called, but they are awful.
Haywires? Are they haywires?
Haywire, that's it. Oh my god, those things will absolutely shit on you if you've got tanks. So you're just in trouble. They're good. But no, I think fine, it's probably a warranted change, but we'll see how it shakes out. Maybe they'll drop a bit too much from this. It's quite a hard hit. One thing I will say, as a Necrons fan, is although they did nerf a few things, they also buffed some other stuff. So I'm actually kind of like low-key eyeing Obeisant's Phalanx again, because that's been the shittest attachment for the longest time, but they've actually finally fixed the fucking keywords. So the Silent King, who is the Triarch, did not have the Triarch as a keyword. Didn't have Triarch as a keyword, which doesn't make any sense from a lore perspective. They've finally given it to him, and they've finally given the ability for nobles, which is Imhotep and Trazyn, to now buff units that they're in as well as overlords, basically. So they've changed a few little things here and there. So that'll be fun to try. And they've buffed a few of the vehicle points as well, which would be good. So we'll see.
I'm also going to make a prediction right now. I reckon a surprisingly powerful faction to come out of this exact data slate will be Death Guard. I'm expecting
I think they've done well
to be an absolute nuisance because they have had some of their better data sheets reduced in points. Everyone took Morty. Morty's gone down in points. Everyone takes Blight Lord Terminators. They've Death Shroud, sorry. They've come down in points. Ironically, the Blight Lords haven't, and actually they needed to. Really. But the fucking Death Shrouds have come down, which are like the unit. So I'm expecting
the best
to
ones.
run like two or three units of 6 of those and just like wreck face. Yeah, so interesting. I think I'm going to put money on Death Guard being a contender for a really.
I think they'll do well out of it for sure. Going to see a lot more because those anti-infantry flamers that they've got are nasty. And Guard, although Guard have got that new unit with the 3-inch deep strike or rapid ingress bullshit that they're going to be playing with now, but their Bulgrin have been nerfed a little bit, so they are going to be
their Bulgrin's been nerfed, but then that wasn't rewarding a particularly guardy like loadout, which was like
but I think people were just sort of using it to just sort of stonk the middle and then shoot the crap out of you with all the tanks, and now they don't have that.
But equally their sentinels and stuff have gone down in points and stuff, so like they
which was a weird one.
I think in terms of like Guard as an overall faction has got a lot more like lean and a lot better. It's just that their one-op build of spam Bulgrin is not going to be a thing anymore, which as far as I'm concerned, I'm totally cool with.
If anyone ever wonders what op means, it's OP, which means overpowered.
True.
Just because we say it quite a lot, and I just people are like, "What's op? What's he fucking on about?"
Overpowered, so overpowered, too strong.
It's fine, but I think it's been good changes. I think, as you said, it's going to be a great time to play the game because there's going to be a lot of shifting in the meta and like trying out new builds, which is always really fun. And some other factions got some buffs like orcs and stuff that needed it, so that's good. So exciting time to be alive. I'm looking forward to getting some games in soon, hopefully. There
you go. We're doing well. We've got our doubles event coming up, so it's so cool. Now, before I go on to my creamy wet blend of subjects, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know that you care and you're out there. You delayed me because you were like you.
Sorry, can't interrupting you.
Without doing it. That's all right, mate. It's fine. Please, we're getting loads of great comments. Actually, to be fair, like I say this, I've been saying this consistently, but like honestly, the more you engage with us, the more that sweet, sexy algorithm, daddy algorithm, like recognizes us and gets us going. So please, daddy algorithm, help us out. So like, comment, subscribe. Our last video is doing really well, so we're well chuffed about that. That's brilliant. So fantastic.
Getting better.
We've also got a special. We also, anyone who's listening on the podcast, because someone told me about this the other day, that they were finding it hard to find the special that we did on the Space Marine Legions for Space Marine 2. There is a special on our YouTube channel, which is our most hated and loved Space Marine Legions. Go and check that out. That's exclusively on YouTube, so that you can come and interact with us on YouTube. So thank you so much for your community support. you're the best, and the fact that we have an audience now is fucking awesome. So thank you so much.
Yeah, keep it coming, guys. There's a good amount of you tuning in every week, and it's getting bigger every week as well, which is what we want to see. It's just we want to grow this so that we can get more engagement from you guys and get like more involved with chat and talk to you guys and get some good fun answers and questions going on. If you guys got topics you want us to cover. I mean, to be honest with you, Russ pulls new topics out of his arse every week anyway, so it's not like we're running out of ideas. We've got so much to talk about, but the more the merrier as far as topics are concerned. And if you guys have got anything you'd like to see us cover, then please, just drop us a comment.
I have like the next 5 topics and the guest specials like already kind of like...
Yeah, you've got them all done already.
We do have some guests on the horizon. We won't tell you who they are because we're very, very excited to have them on. It's going to be fucking awesome.
Yeah,
but like, so fingers crossed for that soon as well.
Coming soon.
So... We've had the points changes in regards to stuff. Now, obviously, over the years, there's been quite a lot of changes in terms of like points and rules and stuff around the competitive culture of 40k. And there's been some times where you might be a little bit enraged by some of those, and some of them might tick you off. And we've come to the conclusion we're in a bit of an antsy mood today. I don't know if you can tell on pod. Like beforehand, we were kind of talking. We were a bit like with each other, a bit bitey.
Yeah.
So
fuck you, Russ. Turn your microphone down.
So most hated 40k rules over the years. What, dude? What? Wow. There's a lot here to unpack. Like,
I'm going to come out of the
therapy chair.
Yeah, I'm going to come out of the gates with a banger, and I think that this is probably one of the most hated rules that has ever been a part of this game. It was a 9th edition rule called transhuman physiology. And basically, it meant, in a game perspective, that you could not be wounded on a dice roll of 1 to 3. So you could only be wounded on a 4 or higher, which meant that all of your really powerful high strength shooting, really was ineffective against it. And it was unfortunately present on pretty much all Dark Angels Terminators, which Russ obviously, was a big aficionado of. So that one, I know for a fact, fucked a lot of people off because there was no end of whinging about that throughout the whole edition.
Look, now, I have a lot to say on this subject.
I feel like you're just trying to come up with reasons for why it should have been okay.
I get good. That's what I'm saying.
Just roll 4 ups.
I hated. Do you know what? Right, when a faction specifically has a thing like this, right?
Yeah.
And this is ironic coming from me, who like rags on one very specific faction all the time, but that's just due to like cultural reasons or like law reasons, right?
Yeah.
I get really annoyed at whingy fucking asshole gamers in the hobby that just shut up. It's fine.
Look,
right?
guys,
There's so much vitriol, right? I was playing in 9th, and I was playing Deathwing armies because I wanted to play Deathwing armies. It wasn't because I was meta chasing, or it wasn't because of whatever. And there was one very notable this is me getting my claws out. One very notable person in the Warhammer community that we may not both known at one point or another. I don't know them personally, but whatever. That was complaining about, you know who this is, don't you? That were complaining about, you're just being really political and like, complained about the Dark Angels, the transhuman thing. It was like, it's just a low skill faction and there's no theme to it being all Deathwing. I'm like, are you high? Like, that has been the theme of like Dark Angels lore forever. Like having a whole army. If you go on any Facebook group forever, like people have wanted to do like Deathwing armies since like Dark Angels were a thing, right? So don't give me that bollocks about them like not being a cohesive looking force. And this snooty highbrow like, oh well, it's not a nice way of playing the game. It's not a very high skill faction. And like, get fucked. Like, how dare you? Sorry, I'm getting on a real ranty base.
You really are.
How dare you? It's so annoying. It so annoys me, this like look down on factions because of like their quote unquote skill threshold or whatever.
Yeah.
So I felt the wrath, essentially. I felt the wrath of the community when I played Dark Angels Transhuman. And I get the frustration. I do. I get it, right?
Yeah.
But what you got to understand is, like, those boxer Terminators ain't going nowhere, right? As soon as they deep strike, they are slow bastards. They ain't going nowhere. Yeah. They're just, like, staying on objectives and stuff. And yeah, okay, you have to work harder than I do, but get over it. It's no different to, like, Custodes,
it's not like they were just
Wardens.
Unkillable almost, and you could just stand them on the middle of the points and just win the game just by just living in the mid.
That's fair
playing
enough.
The game, as you say.
Look, you could choose your secondaries in 9th edition.
Yeah, you
choose
could.
better secondaries and get good.
Yeah.
Sorry, get fucked. Like, no, I'm not
on that note of choosing secondaries, like there was a Necron secondary called Code of Combat, where you basically had to like use your characters to kill characters, and it was such a fun mini game to get like the king to just finish off units and stuff like that. And I remember in a game against somebody once, they referred to it accidentally as Code of Conduct, and then I just called it that for the whole rest of the edition. Like, this king was going around like, I'll just kill you, I'll just politely kill you. So obviously you're quite a fan of transhuman physiology, which is weird being a Deathwing player. But what rules do you hate, or do you know of that are egregious? To be,
funnily enough, I even though I had a very strong faction in 9th edition, there were elements of 9th edition that I did not like as much as 10th. Actually, weirdly, I'm loving 10th more than I have 40k in a while. But one thing that happened at the beginning of 10th was a very, very busted combination of words that gave hell to a lot of like players in the early days, including myself, where I just had units eaten by this one keyword: devastating wounds in the early days of 10th edition. Oh my god, what the hell?
God.
It looked on paper, you looked at dev wounds and you were like, wow, that's strong, but potentially fair if you're like rolling hot and stuff, right? But it was all of the bullshittery in regards to like how that was the one thing that broke how damage worked, where like all spilled over and stuff, right? Yeah. And it was just weird, and it took G-dubs a while to like balance that in a way that, because they then hit it really hard and it wasn't very good, and now they've kind of got it just about right, to be fair.
Because this kind of linked into Wraith Knights, didn't it? And obviously Titanic units used to be able to Overwatch, they can't anymore, and this was kind of part of the problem, was that what you would find is an Eldar player would use a 6 to auto hit the Wraith Knights Overwatch and then do 2d6 damage, and because the wounds spilled through the squad, he could just wipe like an entire 10-man squad of whatever in one go, or just do shitloads of damage.
Great.
Yeah, you just blast a whole load of them. It was great, but really silly. So I'm glad they changed it. It was bit over the top, that one, to be fair.
It just was very gotcha, right? Where like it felt really bad. It was really uninteractive and you couldn't do anything. Like, you couldn't roll or save or anything. Like you know, if your opponent was milking that ability for everything that it was worth, it was like they were playing solitaire a little bit.
Yeah,
and
you pretty much just had feel no pains, and that was it.
Because even in regards to transhuman, as we previously talked about, right?
Yeah,
you could still roll hot and still wound. You still fucking wound.
Yeah, no, you could.
I know it's a 50-50 chance, but it was in your hands, quite literally, in as much as your dice roll determined that. But with dev wounds, it was like, I literally have no interaction here. Like,
I think the problem is auto 6 as well with Eldar, like just made it really silly, because you could just be like, okay, this automatically hits and then wounds and all this sort of stuff. And obviously now they've nerfed fate dice a lot, but it was a completely ridiculous rule going into 10th. I agree.
That winter I affectionately describe as like, and the winter that I met you was like Eldari winter, where it was like the domination of Eldari, where you kind of just almost like, it was almost not an auto loss, but you were like, I'm just going to do as well as I can here, right?
Yeah.
And like it was more important if you weren't playing Eldari to like, well, where is everyone not? Where do I place that is not an Eldari player, if that makes sense? So kind of like a micro format was kind of like as a result.
It was ridiculous because I remember the tournament that we met at. Like, I was like talking to people at the beginning, and we were like looking around the table, seeing who was playing Eldar, and we were like, oh, fuck, there's like 2 or 3 Eldar players here. You just Wraith Knights everywhere, and we were just like, shit. I hope we don't cop them, because you knew you'd lose.
Yeah,
there was just no way around it. Especially with all their like moving back with the Wraith Guard guys through the walls. And,
it's
silly.
just
It's so silly.
Silly interactions.
That whole faction was dumb going into 10th, but it's got a lot more calm. They've actually got some points buffs recently in that MFM, so we'll see how they're doing now. I'm going to go and hit Dark Angels again with my second blow. In hand with the transhuman physiology bullshit of 9th edition goes Bodyguard. I don't know if you guys remember this one, but it was basically it was things like, I think Deathwing Command Squads had it, and you had like various units that were basically sort of like, you know, the protectory kind of guys, and they had an ability called Bodyguard, which I believe, if I'm recalling it correctly, was a 3-inch aura around the models of if any characters were in that, because obviously characters didn't join squads in 9th edition in the same way they do now. It was all a bit different. So if a character was within 3 inches of a Bodyguard unit, then you could not target them with ranged attacks. I don't know whether it was outside of 12 inches or at all. I just can't remember. But it was
you couldn't do it at all.
Yeah, you couldn't really target them, basically. And you could do some absolute bullshit with this thing. So what I used to do, and I'll throw my hand up here. I used to play, I have been a Dark Angels player at points, and I did dabble in them at 9th. There was this thing that you used to be able to do where you would put your Deathwing Command Squad behind a wall. You would put your Talon Master the other side of the wall out the front, and what you could do was you could race your Talon Master forwards, shoot the fuck out of something, charge something else and kill it, and then you would fall back using a strat that would let you literally just fall back after combat, and you just go back into that 3-inch bubble again, and no one could do anything about it. So I've like killed like 1 or 2 units and just fucked off. It was mental.
And what's really uninteractive about that is, and where the bullshittery came into play was like people were hiding, and in that case, hiding the Bodyguard units behind line of sight blocking terrain.
Exactly that.
So you could almost like have the character unit the Talon
you couldn't
Master.
Kill them.
Yeah, well, the bullshittery was like it was almost like you could see the Talon Master with a unit that you wanted to shoot with at that Talon Master. But because they were in 3 inches of the Bodyguard unit that you couldn't see and shoot, you couldn't shoot either because of the way that interaction worked. So it was so feel bad and didn't make any logical sense from like a rule perspective. So you know, for as far as I'm concerned, that was an easy fix. Where it's just like, if you can't see the Bodyguard unit, you can't get benefits from that ability. Does that make sense? If that's the
they did do something to it near the end of 9th. I can't remember what it was. They did sort of fix it, but it was for a large part of 9th edition. It was like that, and I think the worst offenders actually weren't Dark Angels. It was fucking Iron Hands with those Contemptor Dreadnoughts, because they would have one that was made into a character, which meant you could protect it, and then they would just sit it in the middle of the board and just shit Volkite mortal wounds all over everything with like loads of re-rolls, and they were just awful. Those things absolutely blasted. I remember those. They were great. It was so much fun. Yeah.
Oh, dude, the only time where Iron Hands were actually like, you know, relevant.
Mate, Iron Hands have been broken a few times. At the end of 8th edition, they were broken. In 9th edition, they were broken.
No,
they're okay now.
Sorry, Iron Hands.
Even in 10th edition, they had a little moment where they were a little bit strong for a while.
Oh yeah, true, true.
They did early on.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Okay, I'll be checked. I'll be checked there. I feel that.
What else have you got? Come on, hit me.
I've got one more. I've got one more. You got it all. It's like,
I could go all day. I got it all.
Well, we do have other subjects to discuss now, Ed. But like, yes, the other thing, and this is a controversial topic because this was never a mechanic back in my early day down pit of 40K, where it was like, and I feel a bit sort of split on this.
Yeah,
rerolls, and like how I feel about re-rolls in general, where it's like, I feel like re-rolls are kind of a bandage aid for bad game development, where I know that this is a dice game, and I know that like luck can really fuck you, and obviously rerolls try and minimize that and make something more consistent doing the thing that it should really be good at doing. I totally understand, right? But it feels like rerolls are so common, like as a mechanic, where it's like every faction has some way of re-rolling something really important. And even inbuilt and in-baked in the game, in this edition, the last edition before that, is the old CP re-rolls. And I know how a lot of people like Chef from Tabletop Tactics like very much hates the concept of CP re-rolls, right?
Yeah.
Where, you know, there's nothing quite as feel bad as like when you've just killed a Baden or something and you've thrown everything at him or whatever, and it was a 2-up invul or something stupid, and your opponent's like, command point CP reroll, and they get it, and you're like, oh, what the fuck?
Feels awful, and that was like your last unit you could shoot
bad.
with.
Yeah, exactly. It just feels so bad, and I get it, and I get why they're there, but make them rare. Like, make them like the elite of the elite thing can do that, right?
Do you know what?
Do you know what I mean? Like, give them that weight.
Yeah. I think the problem with rerolls for a lot of people was that they've always been a big part of the game, and they have got worse and worse and worse. In 9th edition, they were fucking everywhere. And going into 10th edition, I remember there was a Warhammer community article that was like, rerolls are like massively reduced in this edition. You'll barely see them. And then like the next community article was the teaser for Oath of Moment, and everyone was like, but it's just fucking reroll hits and wounds like against everything. You know, your whole army gets it. And I remember people were just shitting on it so much at the beginning of 10th because there are loads of fucking rerolls. And like, look at Eradicators, they got them baked in. Half of the fucking elite infantry guys have got them baked in. Like if you look at Immortals, if you're rerolling ones all the time and against stuff on objectives, you're full rerolls. There's loads of that across the game, all over the place. So yeah, there are a lot of them. And I agree on the CP reroll thing. It does feel bad sometimes. It's shit.
Yeah, on the whole, I absolutely love a lot of the mechanics of 10th, like sustained and anti is great. Anti's a great concept for
Anti's cool
stuff, right? Anti's wicked. It makes sense, and it makes units check other types of units, which I really like. It almost feels a bit chess-like, right? But rerolls, it feels like GW shove rerolls for not working on more potentially unbalanced but more flavorful rules where like Space Marines Oath of Moment, like Space Marines, for how ubiquitous and like common they are, have like one of the most boring like core rules, which makes them quite strong. Like, Oath is great. Like, Oath makes it consistently awesome, right? I love Oath from a player perspective. Oath is very strong, right?
Yeah.
But it just feels like it's like, well, we don't really know what to do with Space Marines from a rule perspective. There you go, have Oath. And it's just like,
fuck it.
It's just not good design.
I also think, while we're on the subject of Space Marines getting shit rules, like, Armor of Contempt felt like such a cop-out stratagem to just slap across the entire Space Marine detachment board, like, with every single one of them has it as one of their 6 strats. And it was a bit like, we can't come up with enough strats, so we're just going to give you AOC. And I know it's good to have, and it makes sense. I get it, but it's just a little bit lame, because not all of the CSM ones have it, right? I'm pretty sure.
No, I don't think so. But like,
I don't think they do.
It's really weird, actually, that Hour of Contempt is a universal stratagem across all of the Space Marine detachments and stuff. And maybe it was just the game devs going, "Oh fuck, we got to write another."
Is it the same for Sisters as well? Do they all have it?
I don't know. If I'm honest, I can't remember.
I know one of them definitely does, but I can't remember if all of them do.
But
it is a bit of a sort of band-aid, you know. Could have come up with some more flavorful stuff, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So there you go, re-rolls for me. Do you want to do one more then, Edo?
I'll do one more. So I think my last one is it's not so much a rule as it is a unit type or a pair of unit types, which is aeroplanes and artillery. Games Workshop just can't seem to get them right. They're either incredible and they absolutely fuck you. Like, look at Imperial Guard with all their basilisks and stuff earlier in the edition. They were absolutely wrecking people. It wasn't even the basilisk, it was that other one. I can't remember what it's called now. But they were just slapping people with those 3 damage artillery shots, like all buffed up. And now they've obviously made it so you've basically got transhuman on your hit roll with them. You can never hit on better than a 4, which is a good fix. But again, they're not quite as powerful as they were. They can't seem to get it right. Like they're either amazing or they're dog shit. And the same with planes. There's a couple of planes knocking around at the minute that are actually really good. The Drakari, is it the what's that? I can't remember what it's called. Is it Dark Talons? No, that's a Dark Angels one. The Drakari bomber one is really good at the minute, and it's one of the better planes in the game. But then there's also other stuff out there that you look at and you're like, why is it even a thing? So those two. They just can't seem to get them right. And planes especially, like all their rules are so different and wanky. Like,
yeah, they look really cool on the battlefield.
They do.
It's a shame. Like I look at my Dark Talon from my Dark Angels, and I'm like, oh, what a cool unit. It's one of my favorite kits. Cool. But like, as you say, I think it's because you're predominantly adding a aircraft in what is essentially a land-based sort of mechanical thing, right? Where it's
have flying stuff, but it's all like skimming, it's not really up there.
Yeah. Not right up in the sky. And like from a mechanical point of view, that is weird actually to kind of like try and
some armies
that.
just
like,
flat can't deal with it either, because like look at World Eaters, if they don't have any good shooting, they're fucked. What are they going to do? They're just gonna let the plane beat on them all game. So
but then equally, like the plane isn't doing anything on the ground to like score objectives and stuff, right?
No, it's true, but it can just slowly kill you. If you've got a couple of Doomsides flying around just taking pot shots at you all game, it's going to add up at some point.
You mean the Cylon Raiders? They look cool.
Yeah, no, here the croissant. Croissant. I love my croissant.
Yeah. I bet you do.
They're two. I mean, those are two things that I think they just need to kind of land on some kind of way forward with, because they're just never quite right, and they piss a lot of people off, I think.
Indirect's an interesting one where like I can kind of understand why people get pissed off at it, but equally I think it should just be given to less units. I like the concept of like always getting cover against it. That makes sense, right? But I don't think certain things should have indirect. Like, I don't think did Lima Russes have indirect?
No, I think it's Basilisks, and there's another 2 or 3. Sorry?
Manticore.
They're the ones that were really bad at in the beginning.
I mean, they kind of make sense because they're like they're kind of just doing their thing. But stuff like I don't really see why the Exorcist has indirect. I don't really see why but you still need a fucking C, right? I don't understand why the fucking Desolation Marines had indirect. That doesn't make sense to me, really.
Yeah.
Like that, so just make it really rare. Just make it like a really, really rare mechanic that only.
I think the issue with it, from a gameplay perspective, is it kind of like cover is one of the core tenets of the game, and it's kind of what everything's built and balanced around. And if you have a unit that ignores that to some degree, then it means that you have to play in such a different way. Like when I was playing against the Sisters player and he had like 2 or 3 Exorcists knocking around, things just have to be different. Like I can't hide a little unit safely in a corner room anymore because I know it's just going to get killed. So you actually really have to change your game plan around it. And it's quite a tricky one from a balancing perspective, as I say, because there's so many different profiles for them across the game. So yeah, it's a tricky one that.
Yeah.
They'll fix it eventually, I'm sure. Maybe 11th edition.
I think that's easier to fix. I think that is easier to fix than flyers. I think like proper flyers are going to be a real hard thing to get right.
But like you said, they are a really cool part of the game. But it's just a shame that they can't quite get them right. We'll see.
Yeah,
maybe
some of the models are stunning for it.
They are,
very cool.
Yeah, that wraps up my
choices. Should we do our tasty lore topic?
Yeah, go on then.
So this made me smile because we foreshadowed this as a
yes, we have. Yeah.
Who was it on your community that was the big Thousand Suns person?
It's Isaac. I think he plays in the Pacific Northwest in America, in one of our sort of try-hard subcults, and he plays Thousand Suns, and he's a really good player. He's doing really well. He's quite a young chap, actually. He's an up-and-comer. He's doing incredibly well. And he had a list that was called Magnus made the best possible decision with the information available to him at the time, which I thought was a great list name. And it kind of sprung up this topic between us, and we were like, did he do it wrong? Did he get it right, or was it a mistake? So
yes.
You've got opinions on this, so I think you should lead the way. Go on.
Well, I just want to so for people not hot necessarily on the lore, I just want to like give a little bit of context to this, because this is quite a divisive topic, like in the history of 40k lore, or 30k in this case, right? Where the downfall of Magnus the Red and the Thousand Sons is kind of tragic and a little bit like ironic as well, right? Where the Emperor during the Great Crusade formed a council called the Council of Nicaea, which was basically a chance for everybody to discuss how everyone felt about psychers and sanctioned psychers and psychic powers in general, right? And this is during the really early days of like the Great Crusade and stuff like that. And all of the Primarchs were basically assembled, and Lehman Russ was like, "Oh, fuck you, Magnus," or whatever, and so was Morty, and there were quite a few Primarchs that were quite anti-psyker, and then other few Primarchs that were very pro-psyker. So weirdly, Jagatai was very pro-psyker. There were a few pro-psykers, and of course Magnus, of course. But it basically felt like persecution of Magnus via committee, right? Where it was decided that sanctioned psychers were not to be used anymore, psychic powers were not to be used anymore, which for the Primarch of psychers was pretty harsh, right?
Yeah.
But that was the rule. That's what Daddy said. He was like, for now, go home, don't use your psychers.
Yeah.
And that is it. That is it. That is the law. Upon law, go away. Despite the fact that I myself am the strongest psychic ever, and my best friend Malcador is the strongest psychic ever. But you go home.
We're besties.
And then during the fall of Horus, Magnus appeared to Horus in like a dream state as like a wolf and stuff, and he basically learned that Horus had betrayed the Emperor, right? Or that he was going to
be
post haste betray the Emperor, right? So to warn Daddy E of the oncoming heresy, he psychically projected a warning message across light years all the way to Terra to essentially warn the Emperor of what was happening. Unbeknownst to Magnus, the Emperor was working on his famous Webway project, utilizing the Webway of the Eldari race and basically making traveling great distances instantaneous and not having to rely on the warp travel and stuff. And he was doing this absolutely amazing thing for humanity. Not that he told anyone about it, but whatever. The Big E loves the secrets. The psychic projection that Magnus sent across millennia caused the wards on the Imperial Palace to break and to fuck up the Big E's Webway plan by making it unstable and allowing the forces of chaos to assault Terra, basically, as a result of the wards being broken from Magnus doing his projection. That basically then took the Emperor out of the Great Crusade for the rest of the Great Crusade, because he had to stay on Terra to basically keep the forces of darkness at bay at all times, and fucked the Webway project up, which made the Emperor think that Magnus was the betrayer, not Horus, and thus sent the wolves to essentially give Magnus a sound spanking, which then obviously shattered Magnus into thousands of pieces. Like you say, I've got a lot of thoughts on this, but I just wanted to give context to it. But to stop me from feeling like I'm monologuing, what are your initial thoughts here, mate? How do you feel about that?
I think I'm of a contrary camp to you, because I think Magnus was trying to do the right thing, and I understand that he kind of fucked up. But as you said, Big E likes his secrets, and he wasn't aware of the Webway project. I think if the Emperor had just been a bit more fucking open with all of his Primarch sons, instead of keeping everything to a little, oh, it's just me and Malky, we got this little thing going on, then they actually might have been able to actually help him and understand what was going on and know what was at stake and why they shouldn't do things like send a fucking psychic message that's going to disrupt that and disrupt all the Webway Gate stuff that he's doing. So I think that obviously his intention was a good one. He wanted to save Daddy E and humanity from what was coming because he saw that it was going to be a big old showdown. So really, I think the Emperor was the one who did something wrong here. I think his instructions were unclear. I think that he banning psychers and all that thing was bullshit to begin with. And I think that he should have just been more honest and inclusive with his Primarchs instead of just like leaving them in the dark with everything and just kind of going like, this is my plan and I'm not going to fucking tell anyone because it's, it fucks the plot up down the line. I mean, it would have been really useful, wouldn't it, to have an active webway gate instead of having to have a rusty old corpse sitting on a big old chair drinking thousands of psychers a day. Much more efficient.
But we're here now. We've got to deal with it.
We find ourselves here. So I think Magnus didn't necessarily he did do something wrong in terms of it caused a bad reaction. But I don't think he did something wrong intentionally. I think he was doing the right thing.
That's a very new age parenting way of viewing that relationship, where it's like, well, now you have to take responsibilities for what's going on here. And do you know what? As a more sort of well-adjusted human being, I can completely agree with you. And what I do agree with is that Magnus's intentions were sound, right? Yes. Sound intentions. But even the greatest of intentions, as we learned in Jurassic Park, can end with absolute chaos and, well, literally in this case, in catastrophe. Where for me, Magnus was blinded by his own arrogance. Where that is a character trait of Magnus, which is well documented, which is the classic case of his arrogance. Right, it's one of his failings.
Got a big old head like Fulgrim.
Absolutely, right? Where, and I get it, man. Like, you would feel personally persecuted if you were the only, psychic. But you've got to have faith in Daddy E that, the grand intention was for him to potentially be the keeper of the Golden Throne eventually, right? And for him to, be this custodian of all supernatural stuff in the Imperium. So it wasn't like the Emperor was going to fob him off forever. I think the original intention for Magnus was like he was going to be like that great psychic beacon for humanity, right, going forward. But you listen to Daddy, and when Daddy says no, you shut the fuck up and you say no. Yeah. I'm sorry, but that boundary was incredibly clear. It doesn't matter that Daddy had all of the secrets, and granted, he could have been a bit more transparent, but let's be real, right? You did not have the upbringing that Mortarion had, or that, Angron had. Well, Angron has more of a right to be pissed off than you do. Like, Angron had a rough old time, and it feels almost like kind of malicious what the Emperor did to Angron, where he's like, I could save all of your planet and your gladiator mates, but I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna teleport you out, right? Well, that's just malicious. That's just
character building.
There's no need for that. There was reason for for the Emperor to do this. Where don't fuck with forces that you don't quite understand, kids. Like, just simmer down, take your time. The Crusaders, we're getting there. Humanity's great vision is there. I can basically touch it and smell it, and instantaneous transportation, brilliant, like so close. And then just to have it snatched out of your grip there is, thing. And I'm not even the biggest fan of the wolves, man. Like, what the wolves did to poor Prospero was awful, right? And I'm anyone who knows the channel, I'm not a fan of the wolves, right? I'm just not. So it's not even like I'm like a pro, like, actually, Lehman Russell's better than you. I'm not in that camp. I'm just like, when Daddy talks, you listen to Daddy, and that's the way it has to be, man. Like, you don't need reason. You don't need logic. You don't need any of this, like, fuckery. Like, well, actually, shut up, sit down, do as you're told. You've got to
put yourself in Magnus's shoes, Russ. Like, if it was you were Magnus, and you found out that this was going to happen, and you were out of reach, and you thought to yourself, I've got two options here. I either sit tidy and do what I've been told to do, or I go, do you know what? Fuck the rule this one time, because this is important, and I'm going to reach out and tell Big Daddy E that this is coming his way. If that was you, if you were Magnus, put yourself in his shoes, you wouldn't do it. Yeah, but it would have taken him too long. Too slow.
Nah, it would have been all right. Nah, it wouldn't have. No, wouldn't have even got there. It'd been fine. When Horus was fannying around, but I thought that the fact
that he was too far away, that was the whole point. He sent the psychic message, right?
I think he just wanted to get it to the biggie as soon as possible, right? But like when Horus was fanning around with its fan, like that wasn't done overnight. Like its fan took forever. Like its fan 3.
But you didn't know that,
you know, like. Yeah, I know he didn't, but go in person. Like, don't be a knobbo. Just go in person, present yourself.
This anti-psychic
to the
rule probably wouldn't be in place if it wasn't for the 2nd and/or 11th Legion being absolutely wiped off the face of the earth by the Emperor because they were super psychic and did naughty things.
This is it. We can be on our bloody like high horse and be like, the Emperor's a dickhead. But like, we don't know what happened to Legions 2 and 11. Like.
No.
And I understand that the Emperor did do some mistakes. I'm not going to sit here and be like, the Emperor's amazing. Like he didn't make any mistakes. Of course he did, right? But I think he just made a decision to like lock down knowledge instead of explaining and laying stuff out. And there is actually like an intellectual argument for that because as soon as you make someone aware of something's existence, you can't put it back in the old Pandora's box, right?
You can't.
You can't do that. You can't then go, oh yeah, chaos isn't real anymore. And then you're just then sat on your hands waiting for your first son to then fall to chaos then.
But do you think that this is almost like one of the biggest failings of the Emperor is his inability to trust his sons? Because with this kind of information,
he trusted the lion.
With these he did with some things, but clearly not everything. Like, he's always had a lot of secrets, as you said. And I think that that's kind of one of the issues I think that's led to that downfall. Is if he'd have been a bit more inclusive with the right people, maybe he wouldn't have been fucked up so badly, But
again, as previously discussed on, our favourite gods in 40k, and I mentioned that the Emperor is my favourite god, and the reason why the Emperor is one of my favourite god, if not my favourite god in 40k, is because of his flaws.
Yeah, right? No, he is flawed. The is human, right?
Exactly, and like he's a god. Like, even when he was like, I'm not a god, and I'm literally walking around and stuff like that. The dude walks into a room, he will blind you just by looking upon his like glorious form, right? Like, it makes mere mortals turn to jelly in his presence, and even Primarchs turn to jelly in his presence, right? Like. The dude was a fucking god. Make no mistake. He was a god walk-in, right? And, like, he has no time for your bullshit. He has no time for your mortal concerns, your explanation of, but daddy, why? Shut up! Just do as you're told. Like,
I just get this amazing mental image of the Emperor just being like, he's like, oh, this fucked up thing happened. He's telling Malkador, and then Malkador's like, telling his little clone, going, "Oh, this fucked up thing happened." The clone's just like
all the stress. Just fucking out. But like that was in the previous episode.
In the previous episode. Yeah.
But like, I get it, and I get the sympathy for Magnus, and as a well-adjusted modern human being, you would completely relate to Magnus, and you would be like, Magnus did nothing wrong, and you would get it, and I get it, and I get that perspective, but. We are dealing in a world with epicness that we cannot comprehend, and the character of the Emperor, we tether him to human concepts of like, well, if he's a bit more open up, and it's like, dude, great power corrupts absolutely. It's a wonder that the Emperor was half as benevolent as he fucking was, quite frankly, right? With space fascism. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, let's be real. Like, he did some fucked up shit, and like,
he did.
My favorite story involving the Emperor is like, I think it's a story called like The Last Church or something, where he like basically spends. Have you heard of this?
No.
Where he like he basically during the reunification of humanity on Terra and stuff.
Yeah.
He basically has eradicated all religion but one church, and I think it's called like the Church of the Falling Star or whatever.
Right.
And basically he basically in person goes to like the father of the priest of the Falling Star, and basically shits talk him for the entire short story, and is like,
amazing.
Like, your god is pathetic. You worship a star. You're so fucking lame. I'm here to torch your church down. And they basically have like a theological discussion for like an entire short story, which basically ends in like the emperor torching the fucking church with the guy that wanted to stay inside the church just to eradicate all religion, right? But like, he's so pathetic that he wants to do that.
Yeah.
Right, that's him putting his dick on the table. Like, he had no reason to do that. He could have just sent the Thunder Warriors in. He could have just sent the Thunder Warriors in and just do it, just remove the church from existence. But he's almost like reveling in the glory of doing it, and like his
godliness.
I'm eradicating. I'm like squashing the cockroach of religion on the table, as far as I know it. Right. And, you know, there could be a psychological profile taken there, whether, you know, it's because he kind of hates what he is himself, and like what that could be for humanity and stuff, and why he doesn't want there to be a religion, because he wants like order and stuff like that to prevail. And secretly inside he knows that I am a fucking god, and if people knew that, then like people are going to be fucking morons, right? And
but he is a flawed character. I do like that about him, but I also think that he makes some real dumb mistakes that like almost. I look back on them and I'm like, that's almost too fucking dumb for a god to make that mistake. I've theorized that maybe it's perspective. But I've theorized things like maybe there's a little undertone of like a master plan here, you know. And you don't like that theory, but like it's very much a sci-fi Alfarius kind of way of doing things. That's
Siege is what that is.
That's like a backhand kind of like, actually, it was all along. But no, he has done some dumb shit for a god. So we'll see how things pan out. As we touched on in previous episodes, I'm super interested to see where they're going to take the lore going forwards, because as we've said before, they're kind of like tapped out a lot of the previous stuff. I mean, there are huge ways of time that they could expand on, but I think that you need to start bringing it forward. I'm super excited to see what's going to happen with the Emperor in particular and all the remaining Primarchs.
I think, and also a period in 40k lore that we don't have that many books written about from a first-person perspective, which is the Scouring, where like the traitors are pushed back into the Eye of Terror, right? And like, the formation of the ecclesiarchy really starts happening.
Because that's an interesting one, because that really flies in the face of the Emperor as well, right? Because that's what he didn't want, and that's what he punished Lorgar so heavily for.
Well, exactly. And obviously Euphrates Keeler was like she was technically the first ever living saint, right? And like that was happening during the siege. You've got to read that. It's amazing, by the way. And Euphrates is one of my favorite characters throughout the entirety of, and like even her as literally like being a saint of the Emperor, the first ever living saint. She's got all of that internal shit, and like Custodes are like, you're not a saint, you're not what she says she is, but we know that she is because of what she's done in the lore and stuff. And even she's like, what the hell is going on? And you can see like the start of like the cult of the Imperium as we know it in the modern age starting to form, right? And that dogmatic approach on a very grassroots level. It's not from the top, it's actually from the bottom, where like, you know, all of the people trodden by the Imperium are like, actually, he is a fucking god. Like, oh my god, like this is happening. Yeah. And then when you then have this faceless like person on the throne, right? Like in the background, like keeping the literal light of the Astronomicon like going every day, and like it wouldn't take long, like, and we're talking thousands of years, 10,000 years in between 30k and 40k, like that shit's happening in like a few generations, let alone like 10,000 years. 10,000 years?
It's a long old time.
Like, you know, the whole structure of the Imperium going like that in terms of to the point where everyone but the Custodes treat the Emperor as a god. Space Marines treat them as a god. He must be
fucking livid.
He's like there, like
he must be just like
just like all the rage there, right? And just
it's great.
Do you know what I mean? And just it's the ultimate irony, and like the reason why I think I love the Wordbearer so much is just the fact that Lorgar was right. He was fucking right. He was the first
so you're saying Lorgar was right,
but
but Magnus was wrong. That's very favouriteist of you.
It is, but
they both went against Daddy. Like, he told them not to do it.
But the difference is
they're making exceptions.
That with Monarchia, actually Lorgar got spanked hard. Whether Magnus was all the Emperor did to Magnus, all the Emperor essentially did to Magnus was, okay, now, Magnus, you're just going to have to just play over there and do your own thing. I don't even care if you do your psychic powers. Just do them for yourself. Just go and live in your tower and just read some books for a century or two, and I'll come back to you. I've got some important plans. And instead he's like, no, Dad, I'm going to send them to terror like me. And it's just like, oh, shut the fuck up. Well, the Lorgar's entire, like, great tribute to the Emperor got torched to the ground by the dickhead
He was
Blue
just
Boys.
a few thousand years too early.
Yeah, exactly. 10,000 years too early.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like, he was a trendsetter. Oh my God, I'm totally...
He would have been like
what's happened to me? I'm totally
He would have been like the
the
Uber
Chaos
Pope
Kool-Aid.
if he'd have actually like done it 10,000 years later.
Yeah, totally. Can you imagine Lorgar in the Pope
Come to me, my son.
Like someone like shooting like an episode, like shooting him. Oh,
You have
God,
sinned. Stand in front of me. Whack. That huge mace.
You will be
Next.
maced.
Yeah.
Next.
That's funny.
The non-believers must be eradicated. But there we go. So shut the fuck up. Magnus did all the wrong things.
Yeah,
and,
you haven't convinced me, but yeah, I think there are two sides to this story. And I'd love to hear
only
your
if you
thoughts,
are a
guys.
Thousand Sons player.
Do leave us a comment.
Yeah.
Did Magnus do anything wrong, or did he do the best that he could with the information available to him at the time? Just drop us a comment down below. And if you have any topic suggestions you'd like to see in the future, also leave us a comment. Any feedback or anything, please fire away. We love to hear from you. So, and thank you for listening as well.
Thank you, my beautiful co-host as well. There we go. See, look at that. See, we're very spiky with each other today. That was a very spiky episode. I felt it. I felt that energy.
It was good. I enjoyed it though. It was good. I think it was important, right? We needed a bit of spikiness to have a nice topic like that.
Every time we're very lovey most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time we're like, I love you, Ed. I love you, Russ.
I mean, we literally had
a
phone conversation while Russ was in the bath last night. That's no word of a lie. I'll put my hand up right now. He rang me and I was like, oh, fuck, is this a video call? Because I knew he was in the bath and luckily it was just a phone call. I was expecting to see him with his little bubble beard. And your wife came in and was like, you having a nice time talking to your boyfriend in the bath? We were discussing our list changes post data slate for our upcoming tournament. And obviously it needed to happen there and then because I've got so many fucking gene stealers I need to paint. But yeah, that was quite funny. I enjoyed that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Bath time aside. Thank you very much, Ed.
Should we do a special episode? Bath time with Ed and Russ. We'll just both be in the bath. Not together. We'll be in separate baths.
I have like a little plastic watcher in the dark rubber ducky. Just like
hopping around. Amazing. That'll be a great special. Right. Thank you guys for tuning in
everybody.
as always.
And fuck you, Magnus.
Yeah. No,
ciao.
Fuck you, Emperor, with your secrets. See you guys.
Oh, heresy. Bye-bye. See ya.
See ya.